Well, hello, friends, and welcome to today's live level up conversation. Whether you're joining me live or joining me for the first time or joining me on replay, thank you so much. Happy Wednesday. Let's dive right in.
Welcome to Level Up with Winnie Sun, award-winning financial pro. Get ready. Level Up with Winnie Sun.
Well, hello, friends. I'm Winnie, your host, an award winning financial pro, a Forbes contributor, and a CNBC council member and contributor. And yeah, we're streaming here live. So it's great to see so many friends already jumping in. A big shout out and welcome to Sadiq. I see you on YouTube live. I see a lot of friends on the different platforms. Thank you so much for being here. Let's kick it off and let you know how the market's doing. Because actually, a little bit of positive news today. Because believe it or not, I know it's been a rough day so far. And oh, Joshua, thank you so much for joining on YouTube Live as well. It's great to see you. Well, so far, the market's positive, believe it or not. I know, right? The Dow is up 26 points. NASDAQ's up 223 points. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of interest in those technology stocks that have been hammered throughout the week. Oh, Dow just turned negative. I spoke too fast. But the S&P 500 is currently still up 32. We'll see how it closes, right? Currently, we've got about 40 minutes left to go before the market closes. But before we get to that, let's talk about news because there's so much going on in terms of financial news. Let me just say, that this is probably half the amount of stories that I wanted to share with you today, but there's just no way we would have this much time to go through everything. And actually, I've done a lot of summarizing here today because I want to get some big stories out to you as soon as possible. And of course, if you unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably been witnessing or reading or hearing about just the madness which has been occurring here in the US financial markets, the stock market, the economy, everything in between. And one of the reasons is, of course, the Trump administration's stance on tariffs. And tariffs are really fueling market panic and recession fears. Now, this is being shared across the board, whether it be CNN, CNBC, ABC News, Yahoo Finance, BBC. I mean, I'm getting so much information from all the different sources talking about how the US economy is facing a sharp downturn as Trump tariff heavy policies are fueling more investor uncertainty, leading not only to, for those of you who are invested in your 401k, seeing at least on paper temporary market losses, hopefully it's temporary, and more. But now there's also a lot more talk about recession and concerns about recession. In fact, there are new 50% tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum as well, and other metals. That's actually adding to investor anxiety. And I know some days it's like these tariffs are coming, the next day tariffs are being held off or being reduced or changed. It's really something we almost can't keep up with. But nonetheless, I think the underlining story here that we know is that there's been a lot of tariffs being introduced, and a lot of countries are upset with us, including many of our longtime allies. But overall, a lot of the financial analysts, including those from Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, are also cutting expectations for US growth here in the United States, citing, of course, inflation. And of course, the big one that I can't emphasize enough, and that is about financial instability. So, a lot of concerns about financial instability. Now, let's talk about inflation for a minute. February, lots of numbers came out. And so we saw that inflation slowed to 2.8%, but the price of eggs did jump significantly. Now, in fact, I even saw a picture being shared on social media where I think a couple dozen eggs were like priced at almost $20 for like, a tray of eggs. But egg prices have soared about 59%, almost 60% due to the avian flu and, of course, other concerns. And coffee prices have even jumped about 9%. That's being shared from CNBC. Now, of course, President Trump has downplayed the economic concerns, framing that tariffs are going to be a long term strategy, that there's going to be This is a transition period. And in fact, one of the financial experts from his cabinet even said this is like sort of like financial detox, if you will. It's like necessary to get to where they plan for us to go. But the Federal Reserve is warning of a weakening economy, with experts increasing U.S. recession odds now. Now, some people are saying as high as 30%. That's being reported by Yahoo Finance. So, as we see more global trade tensions, more people upset with us outside the United States and even in the United States. Well, unfortunately, it does look like there'll be additional tariffs coming. In fact, the Trump administration has hinted more tariffs on the European Union by April, which could further cause further economic fallout for many, many people. But just something to keep in mind. And I see Lena joining us on X, previously Twitter. Thank you so much for being here with us as well. So, yes, Trump is being very aggressive with his tariff policies, and this has triggered massive volatility in the financial markets, in the stock markets. So you're seeing big days of dramatic losses. You're seeing days of today, like today, where we're seeing a little bit of improvement in the NASDAQ. Could be some people going in there and buying on dips. But nonetheless, this has done away and erased a lot of investor confidence. People are not feeling good, increasing fears of a recession. And if you talk to anybody, whether they be in line at Costco or thinking about what they're going to do in terms of making a decision and where to send their kids to college and thinking about what retirement's going to look like for them, or having to make those decisions on whether to, sign up for this new medication that they need. Everybody is concerned about money. And I think that's something that is across the board, whether you consider yourself to be, the average American household or upper middle class. I think most Americans, probably not all, but most Americans are feeling the pinch and are feeling rather bleak about the current economic stance of the United States. Now, of course, there'll be pockets where things aren't as bad. And if that's the case, and if you don't feel so bad, or if you're doing all well, then congratulations to you. But I do think that most and large, a lot of people aren't feeling that great. And so, if that's the case, do know that there's a lot more content coming that I'll be sharing, and I have shared. In fact, this morning I was on KCAL CBS News talking about what people could do and how to keep calm and controlling what you can control when it pertains to your money. And so that's going to be a lot of stuff that I'm going to be sharing in the coming days and weeks. So definitely pay close attention to that. Now, one area that I want to share with you too is, given that things are going to be costing more and these tariffs are impacting the way that we're going to be spending, what are some of the businesses doing, right? What are they going to do? Where areas are going to get more expensive? I want to share with you a story that came out on CNBC just this week, talking about what one company is doing, that company being Walmart. Now, many Americans shop at Walmart or companies similar to Walmart. Walmart has started to be proactively having discussions with China. So China's Ministry of Commerce, they have held talks with Walmart after, of course, the reports that the um, U.S. is laying off, is increasing tariffs on a lot of the items that they'll be selling here in the United States. But this is what's happening. So Walmart and these has asked a lot of these Chinese suppliers for price cuts to help offset some of these President Trump's new tariffs. Now, Walmart has reportedly requested a 10% reduction in prices from suppliers of things such as clothing and kitchenware and other goods that a lot of Americans need and purchase at Walmart. Well, unfortunately, the Chinese state media has now criticized Walmart, calling it really unreasonable to shift the tariff costs entirely onto suppliers. They're saying that that has a potential to impact supply chain and cause supply chain disruptions, and that these latest 10% tariffs that took place actually on March 4th, so they're already in place, followed a similar increase already in February. And they're saying that these suppliers are already operating on very razor thin profit margins. So these additional price pressures are really going to hurt both American companies and the Chinese companies, and most importantly, consumers as well. So China is urging businesses to, of course, cooperate, come together, find ways where they can work together and pass on the costs of these, U.S. tariffs. Just to suppliers, they said that that's really not possible, and if there's some way that they can find where they can work together to try and find a solution. Now, the situation, of course, adds to trade tensions with between the two countries as well. So we'll see how that unfolds. But at least we know one company is trying to, have these discussions to see if they can sort of keep prices from jumping as high as the tariffs are reporting to be, and see if there's something that can be done. I don't know. We'll have to just see, and you'll have to let me know when you go to store and you have to buy something new or something breaks, what your experience is. Okay. And speaking of changes, if you didn't hear already, there's some big news coming in the world of Elon Musk and his many companies. Now, I want to talk about something that happened on X. And I know we are currently streaming on X, previously known as Twitter. Now, this is being reported on Bloomberg. We know that Elon Musk's X social media platform recently suffered a major cyber attack, causing widespread outages. This occurred just this Monday. Now, if you were on the platform, you may have seen this as well. Now, this attack was distributed and considered a direct assault, overwhelming X's servers with traffic. Now, experts are saying that X's servers lacked the proper DDoS protection, making them sort of an easy target. But Elon has said that he blames a large coordinated group or a country, but it doesn't really know for sure yet who that is, I think, or maybe we'll hear about it later on. Of course, there has been a hacker group that took responsibility for this, though they're reporting that they're not sure whether the claim remains verified or unverified or whatnot. But nonetheless, security analysts found that the attack came from a group of compromised devices, including security cameras and even network recorders. So they're saying that, well, Elon had changed some of X's, I guess, systems, and that X has a weakened security team, which then contributed to its vulnerability. So maybe they just let go too many people in this very important security team. Now, Elon is saying that this could been a attack that had started in Ukraine, but they're saying really they don't really quite know. So, unfortunately, bad news for Elon on X. Hopefully things get better, and hopefully you're seeing this stream nice and clear. But it doesn't stop at just X. Let's just say that if you're having a bad week, I think it's pretty fair to say that Elon is pretty having a pretty difficult week as well, because it doesn't stop at just X. And in fact, for those of you who love Tesla, you may have seen this news as well. And if you didn't, the Tesla news has been all over. I know a lot of neighborhoods are talking about this as well, because this is becoming a big struggle. He was actually on the news. He did an interview, and actually, it's very, very less Elon-esque interview as well, because he was a lot more negative and sad, if you will. This is being reported by CNN, CNBC, Business Insider, and almost every other major publication. In fact, recently this week, um, tr- President Trump at the White House held a Tesla sales event. Yes. So President Trump has come out and become very strong supporter of Tesla. This has, of course, drawn some criticism of whether or not this is appropriate. In fact, it definitely has an impact on the Tesla stock in general. But President Trump has defended Elon, saying that he is a patriot and that it just hasn't been fair, that people have been you know, making these decisions regarding purchasing Teslas, and that there's this sort of this nationwide, many people, not everyone, but there's been quite a bit of boycotting of Tesla cars. As someone who drives a Tesla, I will say that I have talked to many fellow Tesla drivers, and of course, many people have very strong opinions about their cars today and whether or not they would have bought that car again. So, public disapproval on Trump's economic policies has hit 50%. his lowest rating yet, as trade wars grew and 50% tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. This is reported by CNN. Tesla has definitely felt a very big financial hit, and it's been difficult. But President Trump has come out and said that he will be purchasing a Tesla, saying, and it actually is a really interesting interview. If you didn't hear this already, I thought it was interesting because Elon is standing with his son, very young son, next to President Trump, and in front a whole slew of Teslas, the Model Y, the Cybertruck, and all these different cars parked in front of the White House. What a backdrop it was, and President Trump is talking about how these vehicles and the prices of some of them and this and that. And Elon says, it's as easy to drive as a golf cart, but really, really fast. And I thought that was a really interesting way to describe, well, EV vehicle that the car that I drive is kind of like a golf cart. But what is disappointing about this is if you currently own a Tesla, like I have, I bought this much, much longer. I've had it for a very, very long time. Well, let's just say that now, even if you wanted to sell your vehicle, it's probably very more challenging than it was because since 2022, well, used Teslas, their prices have crashed and dropped. Yes, those are the words that are being used on Business Insider by the percentage of 60%. Resale values now averaging $30,000, $10,000 less than other electric vehicles. I know, it's sad. It is sad. So these struggles are continuing in Europe and China as well, forcing price cuts and introducing even different, even though robo taxi services are being introduced in June, still the political involvement has triggered consumer backlash. In fact, you probably heard of boycotts, vandalism. I saw this one social media post. I don't know if it's real, but there was this parking lot and all the not but many of the Tesla vehicles, like 10 of Tesla cars, had their tires stolen off the vehicles. You've seen people spray painting these cars, throwing things at these cars, spitting at these cars. It's just really, really sad. But that is, they are definitely suffering a lot of backlash. People are very upset, and at this point, they're probably not moving as many vehicles as they did previously. So the question then lies on, for those of you who are making these decisions, right? In terms of purchasing vehicles, how do you feel about that? Like, would you purchase a Tesla right now, knowing that, um, you know, regardless of how you feel about the car itself and the performance, but the concern that if you drive a vehicle like that, the risk of people being very upset with you and wanting to damage your vehicle. And then at that point, when you're deciding to sell this vehicle, that the value is going to be less to a comparable car that's electric. Now, whether it's comparable, it's up to your decision of whether or not it's comparable or not. But yeah, it's interesting. Lena is sharing on X that maybe startups can help repair Teslas, and maybe that could help resell value. And Tesla should allow secondary shops to repair. And that is a good point. Teslas themselves, if you do need to repair your vehicle, you do need to go to a Tesla dealership. Now, I will say that at least in my experience, when I've had to get my car repaired, and yes, they can be costly. Some repairs can be done remotely, which is pretty nice, but some you have to go in. I would just say that the experience I have going to a Tesla dealership to getting my car serviced, you know, I wouldn't say it's the best experience. I wouldn't say it's the worst experience. It's just been what my kids would say, kind of neutral. Yeah. But that being said, let's continue because there's more news that we got to share about. Now, in addition to that, speaking of electric vehicles, the Trump administration has also, this is being reported by NPR, has suspended the federal electric vehicle EV purchases and halted the installation of new charging stations. So, existing federally owned EV chargers, which were deemed non mission critical, are now being shut down, including at a major federal campus in Denver. Now, the U.S. General Services Administration confirmed this pause. This was, of course, stating that agencies now must prove that EV chargers are essential to even keep them operational. Now, we know that during President Biden's era, that the goal for a zero emissions federal fleet and that unfortunately has been reversed currently, reversing plans that require all federal vehicle acquisitions to be electric by 2027. Now, billions in federal funding for public EV charging stations have officially been paused, while some Republicans have proposed eliminating tax credits for EV buyers completely. It almost seems like we're going backwards because I thought the concept was to reduce fuel consumption and to go electric, and that would help the planet. But President Trump has criticized electric vehicles. Interesting though, because then this week he just did a commercial for Tesla. Yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about that? But now he's promoting Tesla vehicles, which, if I remember right, those are purely electric vehicles, not hybrid, not gas vehicles. So is that sort of contradictory, or is it you do you, I do me, and one of those things? I don't know. And but I just think it's kind of hypocritical. But environmental advocates are, for, of course, calling the decision short-sighted. They're arguing that it slows efforts to cut the greenhouse gas emissions, right? That's thing still from the federal fleet. And I think if the government decides to purchase more electric vehicles, wouldn't that be a great example to the rest of the nation that that was a direction that they embraced, and that, reducing emissions was a good thing. Not to mention, it's also great because you also don't have to do smog checks. Yes, that's the thing. If you didn't know, if you're not driving an electric vehicle, if you get an electric vehicle, not only is it cleaner, but it also means you save money on having to get those smog checks, which, let's be honest, takes time out of your schedule. And yes, the range thing is an issue in terms of having to recharge your vehicle. But I think if there's more adoption, I would think that the technology would start to improve just like it does in computers and smartphones and everything else. That range would increase and charging stations would be more available, and they would probably be even more convenient for everybody. And in Lena's point, and perhaps more people would be able to keep these cars on the road and be able to fix them and everything else. But nonetheless, currently that's what's happening. And if you're not happy about these things, definitely put it in comments. We'd like to see your feeling about the federal government reversing some of the Biden administration's interest of going to a fully electric fleet by 2027. Now, talking about changes, I also want to talk about the airline industry because I know many of you love to travel. I love to travel. This is being shared by Axios, talking about weakening consumer demand. Major US airlines now, including Southwest Airlines, American Airlines, and Delta, have cut their revenue forecast for the year. They're saying because of economic uncertainty, because of the tariffs, and of course, recession fears, people, businesses run by people, and consumers are now really putting on pause unless they have to do have to fly, right? This kind of gives me like memories of the beginning of the pandemic where, like, did you really need to fly, right? Is it safe to fly? Well, now it's like, should we even spend the money to fly because things are costing so much? Delta CEO noted a slowdown in corporate and consumer travel, especially here in the US in domestic markets. Southwest Airlines has reported lower government travel and general weakening in booking trends. American Airlines has also seen softer demand in leisure travel, particularly in this month in March. So I noticed that American Airlines is doing actually a lot of deals for trying to get people to travel more in March. So the broader travel and leisure sector, including places like hotels, cruise lines, all feeling the pressure. In fact, A lot of financial firms like Goldman Sachs are slashing economic growth forecasts for 2025, larger due to these trade policies and these tariffs. So, economic data is showing that consumers like you and I may be at that cracking point, raising concerns that look at we're just not comfortable spending. And if we don't spend, maybe that's a sign that some of these tariffs and whatnot isn't really doing what they're hoping to do, but we'll see. And speaking of Southwest Airlines, I want to talk to you about that. Now, many people in the United States do love to fly Southwest Airlines, and the reason is because they have what they call friendly skies. Their flight staff tends to be very, very positive, very warm and welcoming to people flying with them. But also, one thing that a lot of families I know love is that you usually get to fly with free check bags. Well, CNBC and the Associated Press and many other publications are reporting that Southwest Airlines is officially ending its free check bag policy. I know. If you're a Southwest Airlines customer right now, this is kind of big news. Now, for a long time, this was a very customer friendly approach where if you took your family or if you just went to travel, you didn't have to stress. If you needed to check bags, maybe you went on vacation, you bought something, you could just put it, check it, and it wouldn't cost you anything. Because we know the bag fees are quite expensive. In fact, on many airlines, you might be paying up to $50 for one bag being checked just one way and then coming back. That's another $50, right? And then if you're flying and your bag is heavier, that could cost more if you have oversized luggage. So it can really add up. Well, Southwest Airlines was actually sort of that safe haven for a long time. A lot of people prefer to fly them because they had no bag fees. Well, now it's going to take place. And you really want to write this down if you fly them. On May 28th, this is going to be the big day. So May 28th, bag fees will now apply to most passengers for tickets purchased on or after May 28th. So if you have flights that you need to take or you think you might need to take, you probably want to book them before that date. Pricing details still remain undisclosed currently, but new basic economy fares will limit ticket changes and refunds, making Southwest Airlines will now be more like a full service competitor. Speaking of like some places like Delta, United, American Airlines, and whatnot. So now only business select travelers, sort of that top tier loyalty members, and certain credit card holders will now continue to receive free check bags. So that's something to pay attention to. So it wasn't something that Southwest Airlines necessarily wanted to do, but of course they had pressure from some of their investors to do so, leading to these changes. So they're also going to be introducing assigned seating, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing, and also extra legroom options. Really very, very similar to some of the other big airlines. So that's what's changing over there on Southwest Airlines. If you need flights coming on Southwest Airlines soon, let me know how you feel about that. Have you flown Southwest Airlines? Did you like take advantage of the free check bags? And now that they are charging for check bags or will be potentially for many flights starting May 28th, will that make you rethink flying them? Will you start to move some of that business to other airlines? Or are you going to get a credit card to be able to potentially offset that fee? I don't know. Curious to see how you feel about that. I will say myself, I've always sort of flown sort of the bigger major airlines because although they do charge for baggage, I do have, a business airline credit card, which did waive the luggage fees. And also, I like having an airline that is part of a larger network of airlines, which allowed me to, take earn miles and whatnot for more destinations rather than limiting just to the United States. And so that was sort of my reason of using sort of bigger airlines all this time. But that being said, I want to share with you sort of my last story, and that is for today. That is the FBI. FBI is warning for those of you who are Android users as well as iPhone users. I want to talk about some really dangerous scam texts that have been happening. This is being reported on Forbes as well as other publications. And if I would just say that if you have, senior family members in your life, like my mom is a senior citizen and we have family members, just take a moment to remind them and share this information with them as well as if you have teens and just really anybody who may not be on top of this news. The FBI is warning of a nationwide scam. Actually, it's a text scam. It's urging users to delete these suspicious texts immediately. Okay. So, what are these? Well, cyber criminals have registered over 10,000 fake domains to trick users of smartphones into providing financial and personal information. Now, these scams will often appear on your text message as an urgent, unpaid toll delivery service message. It could be even a cell phone bills. It could be any sort of bill leading to fake payment sites. Yeah. And actually, my mom actually got one of these just this week, and she sent it over, and we're like, don't touch it, don't click it, don't do anything. But let's be honest, a lot of people do because they expect they know a lot of the fraud occurs on email, but we now also have to warn them about this on cell phones. So be very, very careful. So some of these they're saying are linked to multiple cybercrime groups. Some of these fraudulent domains use the .xin top level domain. And major US cities are being heavily targeted, including here in Los Angeles, Atlanta, Dallas, Chicago, Orlando, many other cities as well. But these are these sort of fake payment features asking people to re-enter multiple card details. And so scammers are looking to steal this information and steal their money. So the FBI is putting a big alert out there. Victims are advised to report all scams to FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center and avoid clicking any suspicious links. If you're not familiar with it, probably the best thing to do is to go to Google or go to the internet and search for that company yourself and see if you have an account there. And if you don't have an account there, don't click it. You're better off waiting and just making sure that that is for sure legitimate. Don't even take a chance. And if you're busy, you know what? Just delete or take a screenshot of it and then delete it, because if it is legit, there's going to be other ways that you can reach out to them to make that payment. The FTC is warning against responding to these unknown texts, advising users to manually check their accounts via official websites. Yeah, I know you're so busy and texting is so convenient and having alerts would be so convenient, but unfortunately, bad people make it so we can't have good things sometimes and can't have convenience things. It's not like you have that much extra time and money to want to do this, right? We're worried about tariffs and trying to keep our jobs and keep our families afloat, and we have to worry about that. So I feel you, I hear you, and I'm sorry that you have to deal with this. This is something that we all have to deal with. Hopefully things will get better, right? Sadiq is sharing a lot of information about Android phones, antiviruses, and whatnot. Thank you so much for those notes as well. And if you have comments on anything that we discussed today, or thoughts, or things that you would love to see us share, definitely put them in comments. We appreciate the interaction. But with that, let's see. The market's got about 7 minutes left to go. Unfortunately, the Dow has continued to stream negative, currently down 76 points. Nasdaq still holding positive though, up 180 points currently. S&P 500 is also in the positive, up 22 points, so that's good. So hopefully hopefully those numbers can stay positive as we close the market in just moments here. But thank you so much, my friends, for being a part of today's Level Up Live. I hope you enjoy the show. Do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe to stay updated on all the new latest insights. And of course, to catch past episodes of Level Up with Winnie Sun, check out Amazon Fire, Samsung, LG, Roku, and previous episodes on NASDAQ as well. And when sharing the episode online, thank you so much for tagging at Winnie Sun. I've seen them. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for doing so. It really helps us out quite a bit on this show, and we don't take it for granted. So with that, thank you so much for being here. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'll see you again very, very soon. Take care and be well. Bye-bye now.